Good morning, fifth grade. We have what? Today, Thursday, and Friday for our academic days of the school year left. Can you believe it? I'm so proud of all of you for getting all of your work done this quarter. I know it has been easy, but you're doing it. Keep it up these last 3 days. So we've been talking about forest fires and how there's some benefits and some negative consequences of forest fires. And you guys did a really awesome job with your debates. A lot of you picked up why forest fires would hurt the particular job or position that you guys had, but also what some of the benefits might be. Some of yours were a little more difficult than others, like hunters. That was like being a hunter. That's kind of difficult. So, like, what are the benefits of a forest fire? But for the most part, I'm really proud of what you guys did. You guys came up with some really good pros and cons for your position. So we're going to switch gears and we're going to do the complete opposite of what a fire is. We're actually going to be talking about floods today. Floods and drought. So we have like major opposites going on today. We're going to find out what are some of the good things and bad things. Are there good things about floods and droughts? Are there bad things? Well, we know there are. And we're going to find out what each of them, how they occur, and some of the downfalls and some of the benefits of those. So let's get started on our floods. So a flood occurs when an ecosystem obviously receives more water than it can use or store. When that happens, a flood can do a couple of different things. It could move large amounts of earth and rock. The force of water can, so here's some earth and rock that's been moved. This is, you can see the flood waters coming through. It could also uproot trees or move houses. Look at the size of this tree and how when the soppy ground, the roots couldn't grip the ground anymore and this massive tree fell over simply because of flooding. Sometimes it can carry away rich topsoil, the stuff with all the nutrients in it. And without topsoil, crops may not be able to grow. Flood waters can also destroy crops and other plants by covering them with water. You can see how this roadway right here, because of all the water and flooding, completely took that road away. This used to be a bridge right here, but because all the flooding came through, tons and tons of rains, like monsoons, came in and brought all the water, and it totally washed all this away. So sometimes flooding occurs when a river overflows its bank into surrounding land. It could take a while for floodwaters to go away and recede back into that river. But when they finally do, the river may have a new water level or even a new route. Now, like fires, floods often have some very harmful and disastrous effects. However, floods can also be very beneficial. What is happening right here? Anyone know what this is? Yeah, this is rice paddies. This is how people in Asia will grow rice. And we'll talk about that in a second. Floods can distribute fertile soil and seeds, allowing plants to grow in areas where they might not have been able to grow before. Remember when we talked about the Mississippi River Delta? We talked about how when it's a very, very fertile area, because upstream you have all the good soil, good nutrients, it's brought downstream and deposited in that area, and it leaves really good, rich soil. Now, fertile soil is very good for growing plants. So sometimes floods, when they come through, they can take that really, really good soil, bring it somewhere else with all those nutrients, deposit it there, and then you can have some better soil for new plants to grow. Okay, so where am I at? Oh yeah, some trees, just like in fires, where some trees depend on fires to actually open up their seeds so that they can grow new trees. Some trees actually depend on annual floods. Without them, the tree's seeds could not sprout. Now, let's go back to these rice paddies right here. In Bangladesh is an area in Asia where it's predominantly rice paddies that grow. Floods are often caused by the heavy monsoon rains of that area. These floods add eroded fertile soil to the rice fields. Some farmers prepare for the floods by planting different kinds of rice in the areas that they expect to flood. One kind of rice, now here's the cool part of how God designed these specific plants to grow. One kind of rice grows best when it's completely submerged underwater. Isn't that crazy? The seed has to be completely covered with water in order for it to grow. So that's one kind of rice. Another kind of rice does best in drier environments. So here's how farmers have figured out how to guarantee they get a rice crop. Farmers will plant both kinds of rice together. So in years that have normal flooding, the seeds that are grow when they're submerged will grow new rice. But if there's a major drought in the area, at least one of those crops will survive. You'll get both types of, one of the two types will grow, depending on if there's a lot of rains or not a lot of rains. So that's a really cool thing about these rice seeds. All right, let's keep going. So here's a crazy thing. Warfare with floods. Floods, this is the Dutch in 1575. The Dutch are in Holland. They're known for their windmills and tulips and their dikes, their water, like dams, and like the walls, the levees to hold the water back because the city is kind of under sea level, kind of like New Orleans is. 1574, the people in this Dutch city of Leyden were under siege by the Spanish. So the Spaniards came with their ships to attack this Dutch city of Leyden. Instead of surrendering, because the Dutch were like, we will not surrender, they broke their dikes, like their levees, and ended the siege by drowning about 20,000 Spanish soldiers. So here's what happened. They're like, here's where the water level is, but here's where their city is. It's below, and they have these walls of water that are, so they had this area that was below water, okay? So here's the water, they had the walls protecting them, and here's where their city was. They let the Spaniards all come into that area where then they had all of the Dutch people go up to high ground. And when they saw all those Spaniards come into that area, they broke the walls that held the water there. And when they broke the walls that held the water there, all that water came flooding into the city, and about 20,000 Spaniards were killed. Yes, they destroyed their own city, but it saved their life. All right, let's go on to the next one. Chinese in 1938. You can see people right here. This one is really crazy. June of 1938, a Chinese general ordered his troops to smash the dikes of the Huanghe, that's the Yellow River, so the walls that kept the water out of the town. He did that in order to hinder a Japanese invasion. They didn't want the Japanese to come and invade that area, so they said, the general was like, all right, well, let's knock down the walls and we're going to flood this area. But the Japanese were stopped because of the flooding. But the flood killed over 500,000 Chinese and left millions of Chinese homeless. So the government here decided that we don't care if our own people are going to die. We're not going to let the Japanese get in here. And they broke the wall, and all this water came flooding in, and it killed not only the Japanese, it kept them from proceeding with their attack, but it also killed their own people. Pretty crazy, right? All right, so let's see. Pros and cons of floods. Pros, brings in fertile soil. It can help different seeds grow, different trees grow. Those are all good things. Cons of floods, it can destroy houses, it can destroy land, it can destroy, it could kill, okay? Some of those are, so there's good things and there's bad things. Now let's go on to droughts, the complete opposite of a flood. So a drought occurs whenever an ecosystem receives less rainfall than it needs. Sometimes a drought is so severe that there's not enough water to meet the needs of the plants and animals and people of a certain area. Lower water levels in rivers and streams cause many problems for fish and wildlife that actually depend on that water. Now, this is kind of interesting because this goes along with the book that I'm reading to you guys. These two girls have to walk for miles every day, a couple times a day, to go get water. You see how dry the land is now. It's cracked. This area here is usually completely filled up to this rim with water, but they're in such a huge drought that this is all that's left. I warn you, the next pictures are kind of disturbing a little bit. The lack of rain causes topsoil to be dry and dusty, and it can be easily eroded by the wind. Some plants and animals will die without a good water supply, and these factors all cause food for animals and humans to become very scarce or not enough of it. So in poorer countries, drought often leads to famine. So you can see where this person, his livelihood is all these cows, but because there's such a bad drought, his cows are dying. So think about this. A drought can lead to a famine. A famine means there's not enough food for people to eat. So if there's no rain and everything is dry, what can't grow? Yeah, crops can't grow, so we can't get fruits or vegetables, but also what else is not getting what they need? Animals aren't. Things like cows, goats, pigs, chickens, all those things, that the meats that people in poor areas rely on, even us, for our daily nutrition. If there's no rain and there's a drought, usually it results in no food for most people. All right, let's move on to our next part of it. Droughts can also make an area more susceptible to fires. So a drought could lead to a fire because remember, if we have those dry brush, usually it leads to dry vegetation, and we know that dry vegetation burns easily. So once a fire starts, it can spread rapidly, and in extreme heat, some fires can even start by themselves if it's too hot. Some fires can start by themselves simply because it's too hot outside. Isn't that crazy? A drought does not have a definite beginning or a definite ending. We know, like with a fire, we know when it starts and we know when we put it out. With a flood, we know when it starts and we know when the flood is done. With a drought, we don't know when it starts and we don't know when it ends. It's very gradual. This is what makes it different from other natural disasters, is there's no definite beginning or ending. So the beginning of a drought may not be noticed for weeks or even months, and the end of that drought also occurs gradually. Some droughts only last a few months, but others can last for years and completely change an ecosystem. So let's look at a couple of these pictures. Here's before. You can see the docks over here, this piece of land. This is after the drought. This is the same dock. Look at this little chunk of land. That's also this chunk of land. Look how low this water level got. Isn't that crazy? Before a drought. After a drought. Before the drought, after a drought. It is really, really significant differences with drought. Now, drought doesn't mean that the earth is running out of water. It simply means that a certain area has less water than normal. And in fact, some areas can have less water than normal and other areas are in the middle of a flood. So you never know. It simply doesn't mean that we're running out of water. So are there any benefits of a drought? No. No benefits whatsoever of a drought. This is one of the natural disasters that we're learning about that doesn't have a benefit. Droughts only lead to bad things. They can lead to forest fires. They can lead to famine. And they can lead to death and destruction simply because there's not enough water. What you guys need to do is you need to answer the questions that are below and send it to me in an email, and I will talk to you guys later. I love you. 3 more days.